In this lesson, our goal is going to be to turn links in the nav bar with hovers. So we're going to start out with a list, and then from there we'll format and add styles. So we're going to open up Caret again, so wherever you left off from before. And we're going to start by in the body section just plugging those links in. So we're going to delete nav. That was just a placeholder temporarily, and then that's when we're going to add an unordered list. So we add in the UL tag right here, and then we'll do our list items. So our first list item is just going to be roar, and so we will add a link, and we're going to do a fake link. And I could go back and do this later, but it's just easier as I'm typing across to just add this. So for a fake link, if I just put a hashtag in there, now I have that fake link, and it's now I can add the hover effects and things like that. So now I can type in roar, and if I want to, why don't I just copy and paste this? So if I highlight, Control C, and then we'll just Control V this down, and it's trying to indent. It thinks that I want indents. I didn't mean to backspace that so far. I'll fix that in a second. Tab those in. We're trying to keep the code nice and clean, and so that way these are lined up. It's easy to see the opening and closing and see each one of these. So then we'll just put the new link titles. So this will be customize. Next one will be visit us. And the last one's going to be history. So go ahead, save it, and then open up in Chrome and refresh it. And you can see it's really tough to actually see because I have a background color. It's a blue text, and it's difficult. So we'll fix that in a moment. The first thing we'll start with is changing some background color. And so before we do that, I want to, up in this section, I'm going to change this blue. But I want to put in a color that's from a picture. So let's put the picture in that goes in the header section. And so what I'm going to do is go to my styles. So I've moved up to the head section. And in the header section, I'm going to add this image. So I'm going to enter down here and just type background image. And the image I'm going to add in, so I've got URL, is in the images folder. And then it's called hero-image.jpg. And just save it, refresh it, see what it looks like. We're gonna have some editing we have to do. You can see it's not tall enough, it doesn't fit everything. Okay, that's okay, we'll fix that. So I'm gonna go up here, and in my rows, I'm gonna change that to auto. So I no longer have the 100, but we'll just change them all to auto. And the reason I'm not repeating this is we will make some changes later to some of the heights. So I could either take the second or the first row and make that 300 px and refresh it, and I can see the height. Or my other option is I could keep this as auto, and then down here I could set the height to 300 px. So we'll leave the first row as 300 for right now. Later on, when we do some of the resizing with responsive design, we'll make that change to edit that. Okay. So now I have some colors in here that I want to have as the background. So I'm going to pull from this. So the easiest way to pull a color is just opening Photoshop. Open that photo. So I already have that photo open, and I'm going to show you how I would do that. So what I do is click on this color selector box, and when I open that up, I have the option of using this color selector, which is the little eyedropper tool, and I can click on sections, and what you'll notice is it gives me a hexadecimal code. So I could then select a section and then say that's the color I want. So I'm going to go back to my nav, and that color blue, I had already determined what color that was going to be. And it's going to be hashtag 316F86. And if I save this and then go back here to refresh this, okay, you'll see that now I have a color that was quite close to that bike color. Okay, so I've got the color changed. Now I need to do some formatting with the links. So I'm going to pull that up, and we are going to first make some changes to nav UL. So that's basically saying anything here okay, that's in the nav div within the UL. So I, again, want to keep this nice and clean, so I'm adding this right after the nav selector. So I'm going to do .nav UL and then enter down. And I'm going to start with basically just making the padding 0 pixels and the margin 0 pixels. And you'll see it shifts everything. The dots actually shift off the side. So what it's doing is it was indenting it. When I made it 0, it no longer indents it. And that's fine because we're going to get rid of those bullet points. So we're done with that one. So enter down again right after that. We're going to do nav li. And now we're going to get rid of those bullet points. So we're going to do list hyphen style hyphen type colon none. And let's just save it and refresh it so you can see what that looks like. So got rid of those. And then we're going to do display colon inline, and you can do inline or inline block. The difference is that inline does not let you make any changes to the height and the width. Inline block is going to do the exact same thing, but it gives you that ability to change. Okay. You could also do display none would be an option, and that's would be used when we're doing some responsive design where maybe you don't want something to show up in a certain view. So maybe I don't want this big header picture to show up when we're in mobile view because it would be too big. So I could say display none, and then in that view it disappears. I could also do display block, which would basically just stack these on top of each other. So instead of being next to each other, they would stack on top, and it would again allow me to make some changes to the width and the height. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do margin colon 10px. Save it and refresh it, and you can kind of see that added that margin all the way around on all sides. So it just pushed things off the edge a little bit. Now, because we have an anchor tag, the link around it, we're going to be able to do a nav A. So basically any anchor tag inside the nav div is going to be affected. It's not going to be every link on the page, just the ones that are inside the nav div. Okay. So after adding those curly brackets, this is where I can now start formatting the color, getting rid of the underlines, the font size, things like that. So we have quite a few things we want to do to look like this. So going back to Carrot, the first thing we're going to change is the font family, and I'm just going to change it to Arial. The next one, we're going to change the color. And again, I selected a color from the bike, so it's kind of a tan color. So it's hashtag E3DBC3. And then we're going to do text hyphen decoration. And then we're going to say none for that as well. Let's hold off. I was going to do padding next, but I just want you to see what it looks like. Okay, so you can kind of see what we have going on. And now I'm going to add padding, and I'm going to say 0 pixels to start with, and then 20 pixels. Basically what that is saying is the top and bottom are going to be 0. The left and the right are going to be 20. So if I save and refresh, you'll see how they spread out a little bit more. Now the next is the font size. And I had on the original one done 32 pixels, so you can see what that looks like. And if you don't like the look, make it different. Okay, make it 16 is the default, so 32 is double that size. So make it smaller if you don't want it quite that big. The key is remember what size you do, because when we do the next part for the hover effect, you're going to want to do the same size. Okay, so last, now we're going to add that hover effect. So if you notice, we don't have that going on yet like we do on this example. So this one's going to be a period nav, and then it's A colon hover. And basically, this is where you're going to pick your color. If you're changing any font sizes, it's good practice, even though it's probably not going to hover and change size within Chrome. Some browsers might, so it's good practice to just change the font size to the same as what you have. You don't want them jumping around to different sizes. So I'm going to do color, colon, and I'm just going to do white for this one. And then we're going to, also the other thing that Chrome does well is the text decoration is gone for this hover, but we want to add that in. and we're going to say none. And then the last thing, we're going to do that font size. And if I refresh this, I now have this scrolling over. So I've added my links through the UL and the LI tags. I also added a header picture so that I could match some of those colors. So we are now finished with this next lesson, and now you'll be able to apply this to an activity of your own.